Recording. Okay, it's recording. Take me a moment to get myself set up because I'm old and these are slow. Come on. I need to be able to read this. Alrighty. Well, thank you all for coming on in. First short story of tonight is called Don't Lose Her Again, as written by Haley Wynn. The first time they met, or rather remembered meeting, might have been the most beautiful time. Streetlights glowed through the rainy, blue-violet dusk. They both were soaked disasters waiting for the bus to come. Don's soccer uniform didn't do anything to keep him dry. Both of them had forgotten to bring an umbrella with them to school. Azalea was gorgeous and warm. She made Dawn feel warm despite the weather. Dawn couldn't help but start to catch feelings, as well as a cold that night. She stayed in his head all the time. He cherished his time at the bus stop with her. No one ever said it out loud, but it was clear she liked him too. Every day they grew closer, silently knowing that there was something beautiful between them. He never did get to say it. He never got to say, I love you before she was gone. He didn't even get to say goodbye before the accident that left him cold and alone. The second time was the most shocking meeting. They hadn't known each other. They'd never seen each other with these eyes. But then those eyes caught each other's, and there were these unexpected feelings. The feelings from a past life washing over, pulling them together. The feelings of once knowing the other. Memories seemed to pour out of their eyes, whispering the tales of another time. They both were more hesitant to speak this time, but all it took was one word. One word to set it off. They rolled into laughful conversation like they had talked every day. It was so strange, but so simple. They slotted in together perfectly. A day before, the two would have thought themselves crazy to take a walk with a complete stranger. Yet there they were, strolling through the park, too captivated by each other to notice the beautiful spring landscapes. It was weird saying goodbye, not knowing why the hello had been so magnetizing. But they met again, repainting their walk through the park over and over again. Their positions shifted quickly. Strangers, acquaintances, friends, close friends. Every meeting felt more familiar. It was as if droplets of the past memories dripped through a small crack one by one. The feeling got stronger, the smiles got brighter, and the hearts were starting to open. But Azalea never did get to show him her painting. He slipped away from her, like the watercolors she used to paint his portrait. She was left with nothing of him but the very gift she never got to give him. They thought about the third time would work out. From the second the two kids met, they were inseparable. Dawn was always there, helping Azalea come up with new ideas and materials for her art. Azalea was always there, cheering Dawn on during soccer practices and games. Elementary, middle school, high school, college. Every step of the way they were tied together by some invisible string. Hand in hand, without a spoken word, they loved. She was his, he was hers. It was the morning before Dawn planned to ask. He was hesitant for years, despite the consistent thoughts that he should. It had taken him years to build up the courage, and months for him to choose a ring. He had just arrived at their apartment when everything crumbled once again. He had been too late. He couldn't do anything but watch his future go up in flames, with his home and love. Life after life, time after time, over and over again, they were always too late. They always lost each other. Dawn tapped his foot to the tick of the clock. He had woken up, feeling different. He wasn't sure what it was, but it made him excited and nervous. He was jittery. He thought the coffee might help, but it didn't. The feeling persisted. It was almost as if something was about to happen, like he needed to do something. For a few moments, he tried to shake it off. Dawn knew it was probably nothing. It would be stupid of him just to run outside to do or find something he had no idea about. Don't lose your chance, Dawn shivered. Where did that thought come from? Don't be late. He froze for a second. Tick, tick, tick. Dawn exploded up from his chair. He grabbed his coat, rushing out his door. He didn't know why he was running, where he was running. The sidewalk pounded under his feet. Something pulled him forward. Perhaps it was some invisible string of force. Or perhaps it was just foolish madness. Rain started to fall. Warm rain, drop after drop. The water fell on Don's skin. Leaping over a puddle, he stumbled a bit. Slowing down to a walk, looking up, he saw the bus stop. He saw her. She sat on an uncovered bench. She tapped her toes in the water below. The rain dripped down from her soaked black hair. She felt familiar, felt warm, felt like what he was looking for. He wanted to run over and hug her, wrap her in his arms and not let her go. Don shook himself. He could not do that to a stranger. He couldn't just approach this random person like a creep. Oh God, he was going mad, wasn't he? Laughing at himself, he almost turned away. But then she looked up. Blue-violet eyes looked back into his green ones. A smile forced its way on his face. She stood up, leaving her stuff behind. Dawn hadn't even noticed he had moved closer. Hello, he said. God, what was he doing? He looked around for a moment. There were a few shops along the street. She laughed. Hello. Dawn took a deep breath to keep himself from falling apart. Her voice was angelic. She smiled, pushing her soaked hair out of her face. He wanted to protect her from the rain. This bus stop doesn't have very good shelter, does it? Dawn joked. Would you let me buy you an umbrella? She swayed happily on the heels of her feet. I would love that. She paused, gazing at him. My name is Azalea. It's nice to meet you, Azalea. I'm Don. This was crazy. He shouldn't be giving his name away to some random stranger. Oh, who was he kidding? It was obvious she wasn't some random stranger. Azalea looked like she was feeling the same thing as he was. Her eyes stayed on him while they walked into the most promising looking store. Thankfully, they did carry umbrellas. Is there one you want? Azalea blinked in confusion. Oh, she laughed, remembering why they were in the shop. She looked over the umbrellas. Her ears glowed red, and Dawn grinned at how cute she was. Azalea picked out a floral print umbrella, and Dawn paid as promised. Golden sunshine peeked through the small crack of the curtains. Fluffy blankets were draped around the couple on the couch. Dawn let his fingers run through Azalea's hair. Absent-mindedly, his other arm wrapped around her. It hadn't taken long for their relationship to blossom. They knew from the moment that they met they were special. But now, after a year, they couldn't imagine what their lives would be like without each other. It was like they were destined to be together. Azalea shifted, waking up from her nap. Hey, beautiful, Dawn whispered, kissing her temple. She wriggled around in her side to see him. Hi, she whispered back, dreamily. How did I ever get you to be mine? Dawn asked, awestruck by his lover. Azalea chuckled. You followed your instincts, she answered. I don't think that was my instincts. I don't know why any part of me told me to run out into the rain like that, Dawn said, wrapping his arms around her again. I guess it was just fate then. Fate? Yeah, I guess your soulmate and the universe just pulled us together, Azalea said. Dawn liked that idea. The two of them were meant to be, but he couldn't help but feel like it could also be taken away from him at any moment. Let's get married. She let out a laugh full breath. Of course, love. They swung their hands between them, matching rose quartz rings shining from both of their wedding fingers. It was a wonderful spring evening. Everything was bright and happy. The park was looking more and more like the perfect place they had imagined to get married. The wedding was set for tomorrow. They were done with everything they could prepare today, so they were heading back to the hotel. Azalea was glowing. She wanted this more than anything. She had even painted her wedding dress. Now she was bouncing with energy. Dawn watched her skip ahead of him, bouncing on her toes as she waited for the crossing light to change. The light across from her turned green, indicating she should go. Cars around the intersection stopped for the red light facing them. Smiling brightly, Azalea started her trip to the other side. Dawn made it to the edge of the road by the time she was halfway across. Then emotion caught the corner of his eye. The world froze when he fully saw it. A car flying down the road. The light was red. The car should be slowing down, but it wasn't. It wasn't stopping. It wasn't slowing down. He watched it hurl through the intersection, straight towards Azalea. Dawn's heart pounded. Maybe it would swerve. Maybe it wouldn't hit her. Don't lose her again. His legs were moving now. He had to be faster. He couldn't lose her this time. His hand reached her shoulder and he pulled. The red car roared past them, missing them by less than a foot, and continued on, the mad driver not taking any time to slow down. Don's heart was pounding. He could feel his fiancée shaking in his hold. Keeping her in his arms, he led her to the other side of the road safely. They collapsed on the grass, both shaken from the near-death experience. I, Azalea gasped, trying to create rational thoughts through the fear. It's okay. I'm right here. You're okay, Dawn whispered, hugging her closer. The couple had laid there for a while, ignoring the concerned looks. They would be all right. Dawn let his hand slide into Azalea's. Their rings clinked together. Yes, they would be all right. He wasn't going to lose her. And that is Don't Lose Her Again, as written by Haley Wynn. If you'll give me just a moment, I'll get the next story lined up. You right there? No, all good. Yes. Hello, Gabe. I see more people. Thank you for coming in. Oh, I'll post videos of this on the wiki, and then also I post the story and link to it. So if you want to see the stories or read them as well, if you miss anything. Yeah. Oh, I clicked too far on that one. Oh, this one is a bit shorter, but a bit more philosophical and fun, I feel. Ooh, it is getting on. All right. The next story is called The Lonely Color, as written by Hannah P. Simmons. I want to paint you. She was surprised, sure enough, but she was also curious. Her face concealed nothing, and that was what fascinated me. As she walked through the galley, each piece evoked something unique from inside her. She did not bother to mask it. Anyone could read the critique in her face. If they took the time, it's an artist's dream to clearly see the emotions we inspire with our work. Many had passed by my work since the showing began, pausing for a moment, offering a quick word of praise. I didn't approach them, but when she came to my painting, she lingered at first. She kept sort of a distance, taking in the portrait from an optimum perspective. Then she moved closer, closer still, narrowing her eyes, following the strokes of the brush that formed arms and legs, and the arch of the neck. But instead of smiling like the others, she was disturbed. There was a distinct anxiety resting in her eyes, and that anxiety shattered me faster than any editorial the local paper could have ever dished out. Editorials can be shredded with a triumphant pleasure, but in the slight furrow of her brow and the downward tug of her lips, this woman single-handedly brought my heartbeat to a most uncomfortable rhythm. It was this distinct discomfort that pulled me from my place of observation and motivated me to speak. Something wrong? I asked. I startled her, but she smiled and returned her attention to the portrait. I was just looking at this dancer, she replied. Yes, but you seemed upset, I ventured. What is it about the dancer? She darted her eyes at me for a moment, but only long enough to decide to continue our conversation. It's just, I feel sorry for her, she explained. Sorry? I wasn't sure what to think, really. Why? Because I think she is lonely. That threw me off guard. I was accustomed to the usual praise: beautiful, profound, truly one of a kind. I grew tiresome in a way, but it was comfortably expected. The local venues were always thrilled with my offerings, but over time my enthusiasm was reduced to contempt. When my secretary had first booked this showing for my latest piece, I almost threw my coffee at her. One moment. I was exhausted with the weekend shows at the courtyard. True, they had conjured a good deal of business as of late, but I felt no satisfaction at the end of the day. All I could hope were for a few simple remarks, no real conversation, no true appreciation. I had a little expectation for this showing. My most recent work was a portrait of a ballet dancer. The studio had commissioned it, but agreed to let me display it at the show before delivery. It was simple in concept, but stood out amid the offerings of that particular show. Amid the bulky sculptures and spattering of interpretive study, my dancer's clean lines were in stark contrast. Dark strokes outlined her body against white canvas, highlighting her single color, a pale violet tutu. Please, what makes you say that? I pressed her. This time she turned to face me, surely intending to end our discussion, or perhaps to threaten to call security. I had to save myself quickly. Forgive me. It's just, I'm Stephen Eric, I said. Her eyes widened right on cue. You mean you're the... Yes, I'm the one responsible for this sad little dancer, I replied through somewhat gritted teeth. Sad. Sad was not the word I had imagined when bringing this piece to life. There was a soft laugh mingled with her smile, and I thought I saw a faint blush in her cheeks. It is wonderful to meet you, Mr. Eric. I'd always hoped to see something of yours here at the gallery, and I've never been disappointed. At this, I felt I was able to breathe again. And you are? I prodded. Grace. Well, now, Grace, please indulge me. Why do you say this dancer is lonely? For a moment, she hesitated, and I almost regretted revealing my identity as the artist. I've discovered that nice people are often afraid to offend the creator of the work. Perhaps they think we mix our own blood into the paint, or clay, or watercolors. I have never had such an attachment, although others surely have. More than spared feelings, I always craved a true reaction, and happily for me, Grace could not taper the true impressions. She holds herself tightly, like no one else has ever held her before, she told me. I looked again at the portrait. Her arms were crossed over her chest, and her feet tightly planted in the fifth position. I had sketched her hands myself, and yet I had not quite noticed how tightly her fingers grasped. Or perhaps I had done this. Or perhaps I subconsciously slipped into my own hands into those of the dancer. That's quite an observation, I replied. Is that all? No, she admitted. The color purple is such a lonely color. I chuckled a little. As opposed to, shall we say, yellow? Her eyes darted back to me, wholly unamused. Yellow can be lonely too. Oh, really? How so? Please tell me this philosophy of yellow, I implored. Yellow is a friendly color. It has lots of friends. Lots of people flock to yellow because it smiles so much. And then, when yellow cries, they don't know what to do. Because yellow is the one who smiles, so they just wait. Maybe they hand yellow some tissues or something, but it's not what yellow really needs. So yellow is lonely too, she replied, even surrounded by people who love them. I was silent for a long while. I didn't really know what to say. So much thought, so much perception into a color that rarely graced the edge of my palette. And purple? She took a breath. I think purple holds all its feelings inside itself until it is alone, and then it cries, but nobody sees. At that moment, I knew I wanted to paint this woman. And that is The Lonely Color, as written by Hannah P. Simmons. Oop, there's people. Oh, thank you. I hope you all enjoyed the reading. Well, that's a bit of a blessing and a curse then. Well, now you've listened to the story, so you can just put the video on in the background and then use that to fall asleep. And my wife agrees with the statement, as if you heard. There you go. I'm glad to have helped to fall asleep. Oh, wait, I gotta stop recording things. Hold on a moment. let, let my poor computer breathe. Poor things like this hurts. Why are you